Hello, everybody. We are here for the after party, the Epic Collection after party, and it is so great to be here with all of you, all 22 and climbing. Hopefully, everyone can find the link. They're jumping over from the other announcement that we just did at near mint conditions Epic, on their YouTube channel. So I want to thank Omar again, always for letting me share the news, share the exclusive announcements, because it's always a fun time to be able to do that. And so we are here today, and I want to talk about all of the Epic collections that are coming from September 2023, or sorry, October 2023, all the way to January 2024. 4 months worth of Epic collections. This is a lot of stuff. And I will say that Marvel has ramped up their Epic collection releases every single year, except for the 1 year with the COVID lockdown. Every year has had more and more Epic collections. And I think in the month of, or sorry, in 2023, we're going to have a total of 56 Epic collections. That's more than 1 week. That's the most Epic collections per year than we've ever had. And that is pretty amazing. Let's see who's on the stream here. James, nice to see you. Oh, here's a good question right before we start here. He says, this is from T. Butler. Kurtis, where did you get those black bookshelves that you have your epics on? The ones behind you. Running out of room myself, and I need some shelf space. These are the IKEA Billy bookshelves. I love these ones. These are the half-width ones, not the full ones. If you get the full ones, the shelves will bow under the weight of the paper, but these half-length ones, they don't do that because the wood isn't long enough to do that. I really like these because the shelves are all adjustable. They have adjustable height, and they even have at IKEA, you can buy shelf extensions. So if your ceilings are just that much higher, you can add one more row of shelves right at the very top. Yeah, this is great. The link didn't work, but luckily I'm subscribed. So yeah, I'm glad that you were able to find us. Anybody, if you're searching for Epic Marvel Podcast, you'll find me on YouTube. I'm also streaming live on Facebook. I have a Facebook user right there. I don't know why. Epicats, I'm pretty sure that might be Pierce, because Pierce often uses Epicats, that handle. Okay, let's see here. Can you compare the Billy to the Kallax? Yeah, I can. Kallax is a really, really good, solid bookshelf. I have that also over here. The all of my, I have a bunch of comic strip reprints books, and they're in Kallax. I have an 8 shelf with a 4 shelf stacked on top of it. So those ones are really, really nice. Let me get my camera back on here. They're very durable, but they are not adjustable. They don't have any shelf height adjustments, so you're stuck with them. So if you have like short books, you got a lot of wasted space on top. However, they are really deep, so you can fit 2 rows of standard, Marvel comic size trades, like 1 row, and then you can put another row in front of it if you want to double stack, that kind of thing. I use the Kallax for those comic strip reprint books because they are printed in landscape. They're wider and they don't stick on these Billy bookshelves. They stick out. So I bought that one just because I needed something with a deeper depth. Yes, it's Pierce. Good to see you, Pierce. Glad you're here. Love your bookshelves. How do you arrange your books? You should make a video of your collection. Yeah, I arrange them by height. So it's like the tall ones all go on one shelf, the short ones all go on another shelf. I could do that there. I Spy the Steve Canyon collections. Yeah, I just got Steve Canyon volume 12 yesterday. Came in the mail yesterday. Those are great strips from Milton Caniff. I wonder if Marvel will ever start reprinting the Star Wars epics. I'm missing 4 of them and need to take out a second mortgage to get them. Yeah, so here's the thing is they've actually done second printings on just a few of them. Right at the very beginning, when Epic Collections were just gaining steam, they reprinted Old Republic Volume 1, Empire Volume 1, and one other, I can't remember. Maybe it was New Republic Volume 1. But they weren't solicited because they didn't get new ISBN numbers. They just went back to press and printed more copies. But there are if you might have some of you might have copies that actually do say second printing in them. IKEA Billy is very budget friendly. That's also what that's a good point. I did choose these because they were cheaper. Now, the white Billy bookshelves are really cheap. And if you want them in black or if you want them with like a dark wood finish or something, they are more expensive because I guess those finishes are more expensive. And I frankly wanted the black ones because they look cool, so I did splurge. But here's a tip if you also want to save more money, because the Billy bookshelves are so mass produced, they're like the most common bookshelf in the world apparently. You can often find them at thrift stores because people, when they move, they just get rid of their furniture. And if you look in the furniture section of thrift stores, I often see Billy bookshelves there, and you can get them for a fraction of the price that you can get them in IKEA. But they're worn, but you can look to see that all the parts are there and that none of the pegs are broken or anything like that. But there's a tip for you. Save money, buy more comics. Okay, let's talk about these Epic collections. I have one from September that I want to talk about just because that one was added late to the schedule, and it's the Loki Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 2, Everything Burns. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through all of these kind of a little fast, and then I'm going to, then we'll go back and talk about anything specific that you want to talk about. So get your questions ready. I'll also give you the link. So if you want to join my live stream yourself, you can do that. We can talk about them together. So let me go through these really, really quick. Here's a good question. Why is it only weird that we have one reprint in December, January? Do you think we'll get more reprints February, March? I will address that after I go through this list here. So Modern Era Epic Collection, Loki Modern Era Epic Collection, Volume 2, Everything Burns, Journey into Mystery, 637 to 645, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. And just like I said, I'm going to quickly go through these. And then in October, we have a reprint of Daredevil Epic Collection Volume 2, Mike Murdock Must Die. A reprint of the Demon Bear Saga. This is, I think, the second or third time that it's been reprinted. Incredible Hulk Volume 8, The Curing of Dr. Banner. This is stuff from, I think, Roger Stern has some issues in here. Hawkeye Epic Collection Volume 2, The Way of the Arrow, collecting Solo Avengers 1 to 20, and I believe it's going to be, or Solo Avengers essentially 1 to 21. I believe this is going to be the entire issues, not just the Hawkeye stories, which is kind of special. Moon Knight Epic Collection Volume 7, skipping ahead in the Moon Knight Epic Collections, I think, to butt up against the omnibus that was announced recently, collecting the Mark Spector Moon Knight era. Ghost Rider Volume 6, Vengeance Reborn, skipping ahead to the Dan Ketch era of Ghost Rider, the series from the 90s. Then in November, a reprint of West Coast Avengers Volume 2, Lost in Space Time. This is the Englehart era. A reprint of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2. This is one that gets asked about a lot. You can't go wrong with classic Lee Ditko. Star Wars Legends Epic Collection Volume 8, The Empire Volume 8. Rounding out the series here, this is the final volume of the Empire Star Wars line. Spider-Man Deadpool Modern Era Epic Collection, Isn't It Bromantic? Spider-Man Deadpool 1 to 14 plus 17 to 18. I'll talk about those missing issues a little bit later because I believe there is a reason why we will see them in Volume 2 rather than Volume 1. Excalibur Epic Collection Volume 9, you are cordially invited. This is the final volume of X Factor, although there could possibly be a volume after this. We can talk about that as well. Iron Man Epic Collection Volume 6, War of the Supervillains, more classic 1970s era Iron Man. And then coming in December, this is what we just talked about in the live stream, Daredevil Epic Collection Volume 15, Last Rites, a reprint. Star Wars Epic Collection New Republic Volume 7. Venom Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 5, The Savage 6. This is the end of the Rick Remender and the beginning of the Colin Bunn era. X-Force Epic Collection Volume 3, Assault on Greymalkin. Silver Surfer Epic Collection Volume 14, Sunrise and Shadowfall. This is potentially the last Classic Era Silver Surfer Epic Collection. We can talk about that as well. Epic Collection Volume 9, The Brood, oh, sorry, X-Men Epic Collection Volume 9, The Brood Saga. Very, very classic story from the Chris Claremont era of X-Men. Very excited for that one. And then in January, The Menace Revealed Volume 4, The Last Menace Revealed volume. Dark Avengers Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 1, Osborn's Reign. This will be a one and done volume or epic collection. We can talk about that as well. Deadpool Volume 3, Drowning Man, bridging the gap between Volume 2 and 4, which have already been announced. Here's a big one. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 27, The Clone Saga. This, I'm sure, will take up a bunch of our conversation today here. Marvel 2-in-1 Epic Collection Volume 2, 2 Against Hydra. Unfortunately missing issue number 21, which is due to licensing of the Doc Savage character. We can talk about that. And then Doctor Strange Epic Collection Volume 2, I Dormammu. So this is a lot to talk about. I'm going to paste the link to this live stream if you want to join me on my call and talk to me. It's going to be in the chat. And yeah, as long as you have a camera, even if you don't have a camera, you can still join my call and we can chat about these things. But let's see what people are going to say here. What do you want to talk about here? Okay, let's address this. Why it is so weird to only have one reprint in December and January. Do you think we'll get more reprints in February and March? Great question. It is weird because it's been very consistent that we've had 2 epics reprints a month. Let's see here. Actually, I'm going to bring up my another. Let's see. I'm going to share. Okay. Let's see if we can see this here. So this here is I keep this list on a spreadsheet here of all of the Epic Collection releases in 2023. And this gray strip right here are all of the reprints. And you can see that it's been very consistent, 2 a month for all of this year. And then in December, we only get 1. The reason is that Omar on Near Mint Condition put out a reprint poll of which Epic Collections people wanted reprinted the most, and people got to vote on it. And then he passed that list on to Marvel, and Marvel followed it almost to the letter here. All of these reprints are the ones that were voted in that poll that are coming out this year. They went through all of it, with Daredevil Last Rites being the very last one. And so Marvel is actually just waiting for Near Mint Condition to do another poll, which he's going to do later in February. And then he'll pass that on to Marvel, and Marvel will start pumping out the reprints again. I think that is amazing, that Marvel is going direct to consumer and saying, what do you want us to do? And then they are doing it. They are absolutely doing it. I think that is just incredible. No Star Wars on this list. And I think if we want Star Wars, that's the stuff that people need to vote on, because we need to let Marvel know that Star Wars needs to be reprinted. However, they are doing the Star Wars Omnis, so I think that in response to the fact that people want Star Wars reprints, they are now doing the classic material in omnibus form as well. I know, not as great as Epics, but, you can take what you can get, I guess. Okay, back to our reprints here. The Loki story was terrific. The Loki Epic Collection, Modern Era Epic Collection. Yeah, that's good. Just a reminder, if you want to join my live stream, you're more than welcome to. I put the link in the chat. Any guesses on what epics are going to be on high demand in the next reprint poll? It's a great question. The one that gets constantly asked about now that all of these reprints are announced. What was it that was... Man, I can't remember. It's so very hard to keep track of what is out of print now that Marvel doesn't run all of their stock through Diamond. Because we used to be able to access Diamond's stock levels and see what is running low and what's out of stock. But now that Diamond only carries a very small portion and most of it's handled through Penguin Random House and Lunar Distribution and all that kind of stuff, it's very hard to gauge what's actually out of stock and what's only out of stock on Amazon, for instance, because Amazon only buys a certain amount, and then when they're out, it's up to them to order more. We don't know if there is more or if Amazon's just not ordering more. No idea. I collected X-Men in Omni format, especially the Claremont era and the early 90s era, but honestly thinking of selling them and switching to Epics. Find the 90s era mapping better. Don't tell Omar. I'm not going to. I don't think he's on this call, so he will not. I'll keep your secret. Very good. Pierce here. That Loki Journey into Mystery run is one of my top 5 comic runs ever. Don't miss this one, my dudes. Wow, that's great. I'm looking forward to reading that one. Josh says, so stoked for the classic era epic volumes announced. Clone Saga. Wow, avoided that like a plague as a kid, but will be happily putting these guys on my shelf for sure. Yeah, that's great. Gabriel wants me to give comments by book from October to January in order so we don't miss a thing. I could do that. Yeah, let's do that here. Let's see what other people have to say quickly first here. Phil says, maybe it's because they worked through the 25 most wanted reprints. They're waiting for the new list. That's exactly it. Oh, Phil says, thanks for today. Really, really tired after the last 90 minutes of madness. Yeah, I want to thank Phil specifically because I sent him all of these slides that I've made up here. I sent them to Phil up so that as we were talking about them, he can be live posting them in our Facebook group so that people can see the contents there and talk about them. So I think I haven't been there because I'm on the live stream, but I'm sure there are many different threads going on over there that I have to catch up on for the rest of the day. Chris says, excited about Amazing Spider-Man 27, but more excited that it's not a strict reprint of content. Yeah, we'll talk about that. When will the reprint poll get posted? I don't think there's an actual date, but Omar will talk about that later in February. Did you say Omar will be putting up the poll? Yes, later in February. He doesn't have an exact date yet, but I will let you know when that happens. Yes, Thor 2 is very requested. It's a very much requested reprint. People really want Thor Volume 2. Timothy, hi. I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for joining me on the live stream. DT says, I'll be voting for Superior Stratagem, Woman Called Widow, and Justice is Served. Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's go back to the beginning and tackle these one at a time, like you wanted to do, Gabriel. We can start with this Loki Modern Era Epic Collection. This is volume 2. And this is not a straight reprint of the other Journey into Mystery Complete collection. It has a few extra issues, and it has material from A plus X. Plus, I think that there's some in there that are not going to be in this Epic collection in this volume. They'll be pushed to volume 3. But it looks like the Loki era is going to start with Kid Loki. That's where modern era epic collections for Loki will start. Does that mean that we're going to see classic era epic collections for Loki? It could. It could be. I mean, Loki I can't remember if the omnibus is out or if it's coming out, but Loki Classic is coming out in omnibus form, collecting a bunch of random stories. It's going to be a weird hodgepodge of a collection, but it could be ported to an epic. And then there's a bunch of stuff that happens before Loki turns into a kid. In fact, like there's a period where Loki was a lady Loki. I remember that. That would, I guess, if they're starting Loki modern era with the kid Loki, that other stuff would be considered classic. Let's see here. Does anyone have any comments? Here, you know what? I'm going to post the link in the chat again in case you missed it. If you want to join the chat and talk to me on the chat, then you're more than welcome to. I posted the link in the chat there. I'd welcome you if you want to do that, even if it's just voice only. That's fine too. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. I think we can skip the reprints. It's always great to see those ones. Hulk Volume 8. We have 8 consecutive volumes of Hulk now, or we will once this one's done. This era, I think, is kind of what really defines the Hulk in most people's minds. This is the era that's running, I think, concurrently with the TV series, the old one from the 70s. Um, oh, here's an interesting comment here. There were some Journey into Mystery issues on the last Epic collection of Thor. Is that connected to this book? No, it won't be connected. Hold on, let me pull that Thor book out here. So there are actually not any Journey into Mystery issues in this one. So what happened with Thor? Here, let me take this off for just a second. What happened with Thor, with this book, is it was one of the casualties with Heroes Reborn. All like Fantastic Four, Avengers, and Iron Man and Captain America, all of those titles got canceled and rebooted when Marvel licensed all of these characters out to the Image guys, so the Image guys could take their crack at retelling those stories. Thor was on the Avengers, so he went over to that pocket universe, and in fact, so did Hulk in a way. But Thor didn't get his own Heroes Reborn title. His title got changed. The numbering stayed the same, but the title just went to Journeys into Mystery, and it talked about all of the Asgardian gods without Thor, and they are having, Odin was lost on Earth and that kind of stuff. That was collected in a trade called Thor: The Lost Gods, and it was 12 issues. It ran for the whole length of Heroes Reborn, and it didn't have Thor in it. That could potentially be a Thor Volume 24. I think that would be kind of cool if we did that, and then that's only half of an epic's worth, so they could use the rest of that space to start with the Heroes Return era of Thor and keep going with the Thor epic collections and just keep on collecting that era. I think that would be pretty cool. So I don't know if you agree with me on that, but yeah, that's what we have to say here. What classic epic line which isn't complete is closest to being finished now? I assume you mean like the long running ones that have 20 plus volumes. I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet here again so you can see this. This is my visual representation of the epic collections, starting from Fantastic Four, broken down by year. These are all the epic collections. You can see that all of we're well into the 70s with a lot of these epic collections, and only little gaps in the 70s and 80s with a lot of these. The closest to being finished now is actually Thor. We have 4 volumes left. We have volume 10, which will fit in this space over here, and then we have volume 13 to 15 over here, and this is going to be the Walt Simonson era right there. That's all that's left, unless they decide to do more volumes on the other end and past volume 23. Daredevil, where is Daredevil? Also has just this little chunk right here, volume 7 to 11, because everything after that is done. Captain America also has volumes 6 through 8 plus volume 21. That takes us right up to Heroes Reborn, so that's only 4 volumes as well. We're getting very close to the end of a lot of these lines, and it's very cool to see. I always assumed Heroes Reborn stuff would be the classic modern cutoff in general. Including them in the regular line is kind of messy. You're right. I have no idea what they're going to do with that. No idea. Okay, let's go back to our Incredible Hulk and continue on with this here. Okay, Hawkeye Epic Collection Volume 2. If you remember Volume 1, it was kind of a hodgepodge of different series and titles of kind of telling Hawkeye's history back in the early pages of Iron Man when he was a villain, and then joining the Avengers, and then leading the West Coast Avengers. And now we have this one here, and Hawkeye had a regular feature in the title called Solo Avengers, which was retitled Avengers Spotlight with issue 21. He took up half the book, and then the other half was given to just a random Avenger, and they would have their own little one-shot story. But the Hawkeye one kind of had an ongoing continuity. And so this one here because it doesn't say material from, uh, I believe that we're going to see all the entire issues, including all of the backup issues, the backup stories collected in this book, because epics generally hold about 21 issues of content, and so that seems to be about right here. If they only included the Hawkeye stories, this trade would literally be half the size. It would be only like 250 pages. So there we go. I'm really excited for this. I have the old Solo Avengers classic trade. It was a volume 1 and volume 2 never came out. And I think it's great. There's some really nice short stories in there. So it'll be good to check that out here. Hello, Curtis. Favorite and least favorite characters? Your least liked characters? My favorite is always Spider-Man. I've been a Spider-Man fan my whole life. I still say that he's my favorite Marvel character. I honestly don't really care for Iron Man, believe it or not. So I would have said Punisher at one point, but I started reading these epic collections and they're actually fantastic. So I'm a little I'm a new fan of Punisher since reading the epics. I think the split between modern and classic is great. I prefer that compared to huge 30 plus volume series, which are always going to have a chance of being canceled midway through. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised that we are 20 plus volumes into Amazing Spider-Man and it hasn't been canceled. It is a miracle in this day and age. I'm happy that they're not doing D.D. Miller epics. He's going to pick up the Masterworks and epics in the new Omnis with, sorry, I'm not exactly sure here. I picked up the Omnis in Masterworks and epics in the new Omnis with the old scans, not as nearly as good as the Masterworks. I think that's what you're going for here. I assume the epics will be the new scans. If Yeah, they absolutely will be the new scans because the new scans are already done. Yep. Let's see here. They weren't really licensed nor borrowed. They were just outsourced. Yeah, I mean, yeah, not really licensed. That's the wrong word to use. They were outsourced to the Image people. But I think Image put in a bid to do the books, though. I think that's what happened. So there was sort of a licensing agreement. I mean, that's why we have Wildstorm in those stories. There are those, like the 13th issue of all of the Heroes Reborn issues have Wildstorm characters in them because there was the Image guys that were doing the stories. Yeah. I like when they include stories from anthologies. I like that too. I think it's great. You can always choose not to read them, but if you want to read them and they're not in the collection, you don't have that option. Okay. Moon Knight Epic Collection Volume 7. We got Volume 4, which started the Mark Spector era, and then we jumped ahead to Volume 7. And they jumped ahead because they've been releasing all of this material, the Mark Spector era, in omnibus, and so their Volume 7 is going to butt up against the second, I believe the second, no, maybe the first Mark Spector Moon Knight omnibus. And so they want to capture all of those fans who are impatient and don't want to wait for the next omnibus to come out. Here's a great question from Phil. How do you think the stories in this Hawkeye Epic Collection will be presented? Will they be all the Hawkeye ones together and then all of the backup stories at the end? Honestly, I hope not. I would love it if they just reprinted the issues straight as they originally appeared. Maybe that makes for a kind of a disjointed reading experience, but I kind of want the issues presented as they were. So it's like currently in the Epic collections, if you have an annual story, they don't group all of the annual crossovers together. Like if they have, um, what's an example? In the Round Robin Epic collection, they have a bunch of different Spider-Man annuals with an Ant-Man shrinking story. They didn't group all of the Ant-Man stories together and then all of the Venom backup stories together and then all of the random stories together. They just reprinted the issues as they appeared, and I would hope that they do the same thing with this. I don't want them to break it up. Um, I wonder if the Fabian Nicieza short-lived Hawkeye series will be collected anywhere. I bet it's a good candidate for um, the Hawkeye Epic collections. JT wants a romance epic collection. I would love that. I love all of those obscure stuff that Marvel never talks about. That and westerns, absolutely. Yeah. There's not really a huge market in on the Marvel side of things for western comics or romance comics, so it would be a hard sell. The way that Marvel has gotten around that already is romance by Kirby, plastering Jack Kirby's name on it because that will sell. I would love it. Absolutely. Patsy Walker epics, all of that stuff. Let's get it. But, all of that stuff is super old and they would need to restore it. And if their return is not going to be that great, then I can see Marvel being like, you know what? I don't think we're going to go for that. But I can see in this chat, there are a few fans here who would love that. What would be the end point for the classic Moon Knight epics, and what would be the start point for the modern Moon Knight epics, do you think? Probably, Moon Knight after Mark Spector, after this Mark Spector series, Moon Knight kind of was dormant for a while until we got to, what was it? What was the title that David Finch was illustrating? Was that Brian Michael Bendis? Because that's probably where the modern epics would start. That's my guess. Country singer Hank Williams said that he got his best ideas from romance comics. That's amazing. That's great. Yeah. Will there be an Elektra epic collection? There, there could be. I mean, they released the Elektra Complete Collection, which was the Larry Hama run in one volume, and they could easily make a bunch of volumes before, or maybe one or two volumes before that, and some stuff after that. Uh, if Elektra ever gets her own movie or her own show, I would say that's definitely a shoe-in for sure. Oh yeah, Bendis was Alex Maleev. That's right. Um, Charlie Houston. There we go. Charlie Houston will be the modern one. Yeah, I have not read any of that modern Moon Knight stuff. Moon Knight has been a character that I've never cared for again until the Epic collections, and I started reading that old stuff, and it was like, this is great. Yep, everyone, there you go. Finch was Benson and Hurwitz, Benson and Hurwitz, and Houston. So yeah. Okay, what does Marvel wait for the issues to be rescanned before reprinting them in Epic collections? Um, all of them. So here's the thing: is that all of the issues have to be scanned, like regardless of, unless it's modern stuff and they were saving those files digitally and they're already ready to go. All of the old Marvel era stuff, they they have to scan it. They have to get it from some source. Marvel, their archives, from what I understand, are very spotty. Art was stolen over years, and they never kept good records. And offices have moved, and stuff has been damaged over time. So a lot of that stuff just has to be scanned, absolutely. And if you want it to look decent, there's got to be a lot of touch up that has to happen in order for it to look nice. That's where the Marvel Masterworks comes in. That program is created to preserve all of Marvel's history, and they're doing it. And after they do it, every reprint after that, whether it's paperback or Omni or whatever, they get to benefit from those files. The stuff that is not done through Masterworks, they just do regular scans. And so you have stuff like the Generation X Epic Collection that has terrible scans because it was not touched up very well. It looks awful. Anyway, let's keep going with these slides here. Ghost Rider Epic Collection Volume 6, Vengeance Reborn. This is what I was hoping they would do. They did one volume of the Johnny Blaze stuff, and then they're skipping over to the Dan Ketch. And if they can just flip-flop between volumes now, that would be fantastic. I think if they can keep on going through Ghost Rider and get all of that done, it would be great. Now, Philip, was on the Facebook Epic Collection page, was going through all of the Ghost Rider stuff, and the biggest question is, what about the other Ghost Rider series, Ghost Rider related series that came out around this time? Spirits of Vengeance, Blaze, all of that kind of stuff. And Ghost Rider was in Marvel Comics Presents. He had a very regular short, you know, he had a very regular serialized story going on in Marvel Comics Presents. Will that all be in the Epic Collection? Personally, I would love that because Ghost Rider crossed over with those other titles so much. So if you're going to be giving us, 5 out of 12 issues of Spirits of Vengeance, you might as well just put the rest of them in there because where else are they going to get collected? Just throw them in there. And they haven't defined an endpoint volume yet, so they can just keep on going forever. I'd like to see more new Avengers in the Epic collections. Yeah, so the first volume was announced for the fall of next year and or fall of this year. We're going to see, or no, summer of this year, and I'm sure we'll see a follow-up volume in 2024. Offer your service for restoration work, Curtis. You know what? I would love to do that. It takes a long time. It's a lot of work, and I don't know that I have the time. I'd have to like quit my other jobs in order to do that. Oh, Ghost Rider is my must-have for October. My only doubt is how they'll map it when the crossover arrives with Rise of the Midnight Suns. Yes, that's the question. They absolutely should reprint the entire Midnight Suns, Rise of the Midnight Suns story in Ghost Rider. Absolutely. I hope that's the plan. Curtis should work for DC. They desperately are in need of someone to be their collected editions curator. I would have to do a lot of DC research. My knowledge of DC is not good. I've always been a Marvel guy. I know a lot about Marvel. However, I would be happy to do that research. That would be a lot of fun. Could you imagine? So much fun. This Ghost Rider epic has Moon Knight and Doctor Strange, so why not the other titles? Well, these ones are specifically because of crossovers. They relate to the story. My question is, what about, the parts of those other titles like Blaze and Spirits of Vengeance that don't specifically have a crossover with Ghost Rider? I think they should still be included. Philip, he's the guy that I was talking about who did a whole bunch of research on this. I thought no more Marvel Comics Presents as the numbers fall too neatly for getting all of the big crossovers in one volume. So we'll have to see what they do. Yeah. There is a Discord server for this group. I don't have the link handy, but you can do a search for Epic. I don't know. Can you search on Discord for Epic Marvel Podcast? Maybe you can. I don't know. We have a fair amount of 90s comment in content, sorry, in epic format. I would love to see the Marvel UK titles, Death's Head 2, Motormouth, Dark Angel. That would be cool. That's probably a little bit lower down on their list for sure. There are so many different little sub imprints of Marvel that could be epic collections, like New Universe. Now that Marvel is doing a cross-gen omnibus, there could potentially be cross-gen epic collections. What do you think of that? That'd be kind of cool. I want DC to copy the epic format. Absolutely. Me too. So not an expert, but do you like or read DC? I do enjoy reading DC, and I will read. I don't read anything DC on a regular basis, but I will pick up the stories. And what I love about DC is that, unlike Marvel, I think that their stories are more um their writing are more story based rather than like serialized based. So like while Spider-Man or Captain America or Iron Man don't have like those standout heroes, the classic Iron Man story like Batman has, I like DC because it's like, yeah, I can just pick up a random volume of, The Killing Joke or whatever. I picked up Batman Ego, the Darwin Cook story just the other day and read that, and it was a lot of fun. There is already a trade paperback that has the entire Spirits of Venom and Rise of the Midnight Suns. I don't think it has Spirits of Venom, but it has the entire Rise of the Midnight Suns story. In fact, I think it just got reprinted recently. Thor will probably start with JMS Thor. You mean Thor modern era? with JMS Thor. Yep, that's probably a good thought. I might agree with that. Okay, going on with our slides here. Avengers West Coast reprint. We won't talk about these reprints, although I know a lot of you want those. Here is Star Wars, The Empire Volume 8. This is the very last of the Empire. A lot of these lines will end with the adaptation of the movie because that signals a new era. And so this one has a New Hope Special Edition number 1 to 4. That's different than what's collected in the Star Wars, the original Marvel years, Volume 1, because they had an adaptation of the movie in the first 6 issues of that series. But this is a new adaptation that Marvel did, that Dark Horse did when the movies were being re-released to theaters. Spider-Man Deadpool Modern Era Epic Collection, isn't it romantic? So I was going to mention this one because it has missing issues. It has Spider-Man Deadpool issues numbers 1 to 14, and then it skips a couple, and it goes to 17 to 18. So this this series had some very weird issues with getting the schedule out on time. And so they had a bunch of different fill-in stories that broke up the ongoing story. There's a story that crossed over that spanned like 6 issues, but because the schedule was so erratic and like I guess the artists couldn't get their stuff on time or something, that story was interrupted so many times. In fact, it was also interrupted by a multi-part crossover with the other 2 Deadpool titles that were happening, because Deadpool had 3 ongoing series at this time, and they were doing a crossover, and the other 2 Deadpool titles were still on schedule, so they had to go through with the multi-part crossover, and that's issue 15 and 16. And so they're not including it here simply because it's out of continuity. So the issues you see here, issues 1 to 14 and 17 to 18, they all go together. And then I'm pretty sure that when we get to Spider-Man Deadpool Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 2, we will get those missing issues with the whole multi-part crossover with those other issues. They just couldn't put that. I think that they could have put it in this book because I think it's just 6 parts. And I think that there's room. No, there's not room. If this is 14, 15, 16. Yeah, they could have done it. They could have put it in here. I don't know why they didn't. But anyway, there you go. Oh, here's a comment about Star Wars. The Tag and Bink stories are great. Glad to see the humor stories included in these epics. Yeah, this is, if you don't know about Tag and Bink, I'll go back to that slide here. Tag and Bink Are Dead is a series where these 2 stormtroopers, it tells the stories of the movies from this point of these 2 really incompetent stormtroopers, and they go through all 3 of the movies. And there was a follow-up series that also had episode 1 and episode 2 in it, and those stories are all broken up and put in the epic collections in their appropriate spots. But they are funny. It's great just to see the movie told from a different point of view, from a humorous, funny point of view. Let's see here. 3 Deadpool titles at the same time. Yeah, can you believe it? Yeah. Oh, thanks for posting the Discord link. There you go. It's in the chat. Can't Not able to post it in the YouTube chat because YouTube chats don't allow you to post links, but it's there. Pause this video, copy those letters. Okay, let's keep on going, unless anyone has any comments about Spider-Man Deadpool. I haven't read very much of this series, but I do kind of like it. It flips the narrative on its head because usually Spider-Man is the wisecracking character who annoys the villains with all of his quippy remarks. But Deadpool is even more annoying than Spider-Man, so Spider-Man ends up being the straight guy in this duo, and it's kind of a cool little flip there. So it's got some good writing in there from the few issues that I've read. Excalibur Volume 9, you are cordially invited. This is the final volume of the Excalibur Epic Collections. The series Excalibur ends with issue 125. And then we also get X-Men True Friends numbers 1 to 3, which I don't believe has been collected anywhere. In fact, I don't think any of these Excalibur issues have been collected anywhere. And then there was a follow-up miniseries in 2001 that's also included in here, and that one is also hasn't been collected anywhere. And I haven't read any of this stuff, but I hear it's super, super good. Let's see here. Is he marrying his sister? No, not his sister, his longtime girlfriend. They have been in an on and off again romance since they first appeared in the pages of Captain Britain in the 80s, I believe, in the UK comics. There's something I'd like to see. I would love to see Captain Britain, speaking of Marvel UK, a Captain Britain Epic Collection series collecting all of the Captain Britain stories that, Alan Moore was writing for the UK comics. Pretty cool stuff. I have some collections that Panini did overseas, and they're very, very good. The writing is just great. So yeah, you're correct, Tommy. That's Megan. Her name is Megan. They both have blonde hair. They both have white skin. So yeah, I can see how you think that maybe they're related, but they are not. Nice to see Phil also agrees on the Captain Britain epic. Yeah, it's good stuff there. Axel also got the Panini collections. Nice thick paper on those. There's 5 volumes that collect all of those Captain Britain stories, and they're not as thick as Epic collections, so I bet you could collect them all in maybe 3 volumes. I bet you could get 3 Epic collections out of that stuff. Yeah, all white blondes are related. Let's not go there. Jose thinks this is perfectly mapped. Love the inclusion of Excalibur Volume 2 and True Friends. If they were to do a modern era Excalibur Epic Collection, the next Excalibur series has nothing to do with all of these characters. It's a Magneto-led team. I think it ties into House of M, perhaps? Maybe? I can't remember. Oh, I see what you're going for. Yeah, Psylocke is Captain Britain's sister. Psylocke has purple hair. So that's one way to remember that this is not Captain Britain's sister. Megan is a shapeshifter, so could be whatever she wants to look like. I'm reminded of The Boys, the scene from The Boys where Homelander hires the shape-shifting prostitute in order to look like the woman he loves. Do you remember that? It's pretty good. That Excalibur era in Genosha happens a bit before House of M. Thanks, Tommy. The Magneto-led team in Genosha. That's right. Okay, keep on going here. Iron Man Epic Collection Volume 6. So let's see here. We had, for the longest time, we had 4 volumes of Iron Man, or just 3 volumes of Iron Man at the very beginning, and they delayed for a little while, and then we got Volume 4, Firebrand, and then we have Volume 5, Battle Royal, and now we have Volume 6. So it's nice that they're kind of plowing ahead with the Iron Man stuff, because I think that they were a little behind. No, it looks like they've caught up now. If you look here, here's Iron Man Volume 5, and then Volume 6 right here with War of the Supervillains we're just talking about. So they're on par with where Spider-Man and the Hulk and Fantastic Four are with their lines in the 70s. The Nose Years. Nosy Iron Man. Oh yeah, here, Gabe. Gabe is in the house. Psylocke is also Asian and not Asian at the same time, yeah. That is a little confusing. Um, okay, yeah, the nose years. Let's talk about this. I'm not exactly sure why they put a nose on Iron Man. There was a reason, but there you go. He's got a nose. You can see that right there on the back cover, especially. He didn't have it for very long. It wasn't there for very long, just a few issues, and then it disappears. But it's there, the nose years. Okay, JV says Volume 7 is going to be awesome with Jack of Hearts and Arsenal. Like I said, I've never been an Iron Man fan. I always found his comics boring. So if you say that Volume 7 is going to be good, I will take you for your word. And when I read it, I hopefully will be pleasantly surprised. Allergies, yeah. So if he sneezes, he doesn't have it all in his mask. Oh, that'd be gross. Uh, Legend says Stanley commented, why doesn't Iron Man have a nose? And then they gave him a nose. I think the idea was to have his face be expressive under the mask. Interesting. And then flash forward, they take away Wolverine's nose. I love it. Great comments. Okay, let's move on. Last Rites, that's a reprint. We already talked about why there's no more reprints after that. We think it's because Marvel is waiting for us, the consumers, to tell them which reprints they want to see the most. So we're going to be doing a poll with near mint condition in February, and we'll do that later. Okay, Star Wars Epic Collection, New Republic, Volume 7. Let me just quickly look this up because I think there may be another volume after this one, but I don't remember. I made a list, and I just have to check my list um, of all of the Star Wars Dark Horse comics. There's going to be a Rebellion Volume 6. That still needs to come. New Republic Volume 8. And I think that's about it, actually. Yeah. Is that all? Only two more volumes left to go? Rebellion Volume 6 and New Republic Volume 8. There's only two more volumes of Star Wars Epic Collections that we have to announce still. That's amazing. So there we go. That's incredible. So my question is, when Star Wars is done, what do you want the Epic Collection, what do you want Marvel to do with those spots? We usually get 6 Star Wars epics a year. What do you want them to fill with that spot now that Star Wars is going to wrap up? Do you want them to do Star Wars modern era epic collections and do the stuff that Marvel has done since the acquisition? Or do you want to replace it with more licensed stuff? There's so much licensed material that Marvel could do that they have now that they have the Fox properties under the Disney banner. There's Indiana Jones, of course. We've already got one volume of Aliens. Let me show that to you right here. Aliens Epic Collections. I'm sure they'll ramp that up a little bit more, but we could also see Predator. There's some Predator omnibuses that have come out. So we haven't got Predator. There you go. We haven't got Predator Epic Collections yet, but I can see that definitely coming. Indiana Jones. But other Fox properties that is now under the Disney banner include X-Files, Buffy and Angel, Planet of the Apes. Oh, yeah, there we go. Tom says Planet of the Apes. Plenty of material from indie publishers over the years. Tons, and even from Marvel. Marvel did a lot of Planet of the Apes stuff. Yeah, The Simpsons. We could potentially get. Could you imagine that Simpsons epic collections? There is a ton of Simpsons comics. Oh yeah, there. Yep, Uncanny 85 also says The Simpsons. The Rocketeer, that's an interesting one because that's a creator-owned property that Disney, while they did do the movie, they don't own the rights to the actual characters. So IDW technically has the rights to the comics for that one right now, and so I think they'll stick with the Rocketeer. It's just like Disney technically did the Dick Tracy movie, but they don't own the rights to the Dick Tracy character. They can't reprint the Dick Tracy comics. Yep, Futurama epics, we could do that. That would be great. 24. There were 24 comics, right? I loved that show. Who watched that show when it was on? I loved that show so much with Jack Bauer. And I don't think there's any interest for 24 comic reprints, but who knows? We could get that. That'd be really funny. It would probably be Indiana Jones because the new movie is coming out. However, we now have an entire slate of 2023 epics, and Indiana Jones is not on the list. So they're kind of missing the mark there. Yeah, there we go. 24 did IDW did 24 comics early on. Yep, absolutely. Not to go off topic, but there were a bunch of Black Knight backup stories from Marvel UK that are in continuity with the character regarding Avengers comics. I really want these reprinted in an epic at some point. Those Black Knight stories, they were included in those Captain Britain trades that I was talking about by Panini. So if Marvel did Captain Britain epics, they could include those in there for sure. But you know, they should just do Black Knight epic collections. The Topps X-Files comics are great. Yeah, I've never read those, so I would love to. I'd love to. I love X-Files. I used to watch that all the time. It was a great show. My dream epic would be the Marvel Godzilla stuff. I know it will never happen anytime soon, but I can dream. It's true. You know what? I gotta show you something. I think you'll love this. Let's see if I can find it. I've got it in the pile here somewhere. So I managed to get a bunch of low. I'm gonna take the stream off here. Low grade Godzilla comics, and I made my own Godzilla epic collection. I went to YouTube to learn how to bind books, and so I bound it myself. I just printed off the cover, gave it an actual Godzilla spine, epic spine in the back cover, made it look exactly like an epic collection. And then it's a hardcover because you can't really bind soft cover very easily by yourself, but I made up a title page, and then I have all of the issues. This is the first 9 issues are in this book here. It's really great. There's issue 7. And then I've bound the other ones. We just haven't made covers up for them yet. But I got Godzilla in 3 epic homemade epic collections. There you go. Okay, let's see here. Marvel made a one-time deal to do Godzilla Essential back in the day. It'd be interesting to see them do a similar deal for a one-time epic collection. Now I have that book somewhere, that Godzilla Essentials book. I got that as well. It's all black and white, which is unfortunate because all of the essentials were black and white, but it's better than nothing. Who has the rights to Godzilla right now? Is it still IDW or is it another company? Is it Titan? I can't remember, but they're holding on to that license pretty tight. Paramount has distribution rights to Indiana Jones movies, hence why the movies aren't on Disney Plus. Maybe a similar complication is holding up the comics. I would say that you're probably correct about that. There is some sort of contractual obligation with Paramount still that they'd have to work out some sort of different licensing deal. So, yep. Thank you for confirmation. Yeah, IDW has Godzilla. Okay, let's get back on track here. Keep on going through. We have the Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 5, Venom Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 5, The Savage 6. This one was a surprise to me. I was not expecting this. I was also not expecting it to be Volume 5, but Omar pointed out in the stream that the Remender, the complete collections are so out of print that the secondary market is like jacking the prices way up. So Marvel's actually doing a really good job with the the epic collections, the modern era epic collections that they are deciding to print. So the Loki Journey into Mystery epic collection is replacing a very out of print complete collection. This one's replacing a very out of print complete collection. The New Avengers modern era epic collection is replacing a very out of print Bendis complete collection. The Dark Avengers epic collection that we're going to talk about in a second, that's also replacing a very out of print one. Like they're doing a very good. They're choosing their choices very well, I think. So with the Venom Modern Era collections, can we figure out how many volumes in the Classic Era Venom line will run? I think that let's see, volume 5 here is, this one's volume 5, and it takes us up to 1995. And I think that there will be 2 more volumes after this that will finish up all of the Venom miniseries from the 90s, ending with Venom Finale. They could possibly include the Venom versus Carnage miniseries that would happen after that. But I'm pretty sure that might kick off actually the modern era Venom epic collections, and that will include the Daniel Way stuff, which was also in a complete collection that I think is now out of print as well. That'll start the epic collections, the modern era epic collections. The Savage Six, yes, it sounds even deadlier than the Sinister Six. There's so many different versions of the Sinister Six. There's like the Sinister 66. Remember that in the Howard Mackie era? Interesting to see their choices for early modern epics. Like to hear what their plan is on these. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think they're choosing a lot of their choices are based on what has already gone out of print and what people are asking for. Yep. Can you try joining the stream? Absolutely. So I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to place it in the comments. If you click on that link, it should take you to StreamYard, and then you can join me from there. So check the link in the. I just put it in the chat. Anybody can join my stream if you want. I'll welcome all of you to be a part of this.
Does it work?
Are you there?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, welcome to the stream.
Hey, Kurtis.
Where are you calling from?
Technically from the Netherlands, but I'm originally from Bulgaria. I'm also in the Epic group as well.
Fantastic. It's great to hear from you. What are you excited about with these epic announcements? Are you excited for new volumes in particular?
Overall, I think I'm most excited for the X-Men Volume 9 because I've been collecting the Chris Claremont era right now, plus Doctor Strange 2, which I just started reading because I finished the Ditko stuff. Apparently, Daniel O'Neill actually wrote a few issues in the second
That's
volume,
right.
which was surprising for me because I usually associate him with DC, but apparently he did something for Marvel as well.
That was some of his
And
earliest stuff, I believe.
yeah, and I wanted to jump for this because I've actually read at least the half of this for the Venom, for the Remender stuff. Plus, I'm usually not a fan of Venom, but this was actually probably one of my favorite runs, and Agent Venom is one of my favorite characters. So,
Well, this
decided to
is,
give it a try.
yeah, and I think for people who aren't fans of Venom, maybe give this one a try because it's a completely different take on the character. For those of you who don't know, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, so maybe you can plug your ears or something like that. It's not Eddie Brock in the suit at this point. It's Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon went to
Thompson,
fight. Sorry, Flash Thompson. Yeah, Flash Gordon is a totally different character. Flash Thompson. Yeah, Flash Thompson went to war. He joined the army and went to fight in another country, lost both of his legs. And when Flash Thompson came back, he went through a lot of PTSD, and depression and stuff, and then eventually bonded. He got contacted by the government to bond with the symbiote suit and
which
got
restores
sent on
his
secret
legs
mission.
for a while.
Yeah, I think it's a great concept, and it's a very cool way to breathe new life into this character and to tell a different story. And so
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I was I started some other random Venom comics, but never got into them. But when it came to Agent Venom, and I'm usually big of a fan of Rick Remender's writing for Marvel, I thought that was pretty good. I've always kind of had a liking for Flash Thompson, mostly because of the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, because that's
Yeah.
where I first got into Spider-Man, and then I thought
Really?
it
Okay.
was a nice development considering, he always had Spider-Man as his idol. Plus, I thought at this situation also what happened with Eddie Brock was pretty interesting because another spoiler after Eddie loses the Venom suit, he technically has cancer and is in a pretty awful place. Eventually, he gets another type of symbiote from Mr. Negative, so he becomes Anti Venom, which I thought was, in my opinion, pretty underdeveloped. Concept that they never really explore, but his of I would even say that the issue with anti Venom against Venom from this run, that's number 7, is my favorite Venom issue I think of all time.
Cool.
And yeah, the Rick Remender stuff was pretty good, and I am curious when they do Volume 4, which includes the first part of the Remender run, are they actually gonna include some other issues? Because the complete collections only have the Venom run, but one of the Venom issues that it's a Spider Island tie-in, actually the story continues in an Amazing Spider-Man issue. So if they're actually epic, they need to include that as well, which I don't
Hmm.
think Remender wrote. So that's an
Right.
interesting
Yeah.
question.
I think that they will. There is lots of room with 4 volumes, and the only real runs are the Daniel Way run and the Rick Remender run. So there's plenty of space for them to expand. So I think yes, the Spider Island stuff. Omar mentioned the Marvel Knights Venom story.
The
I bet they're
anti-venom
going to
mini
fold that.
they can
Yeah,
also include.
yeah, yeah, totally. I think they're going to fold all of that into this, and I think that's great. It'll be really, really neat to see. I
Yep.
love this comment here. Anti-venom, not the kind of anti weird thinking. Okay, let's see here. Let's go on to the next one here. X-Force Epic Collection Volume 3, Assault on Grey Malkin. Um, Georgie, are you a fan of X-Force?
Uh, Not this one. I'm a fan of Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force. He
Ah, yeah.
made me actually like Deadpool because I've never liked him, but in his run, he actually made him my favorite character. But previous X-Force I haven't really actually read, so uh, I'm still catching up to this because I'm in general pretty young, and when I was young, there weren't that many comics in Bulgaria. So at least
Mm.
with Marvel, with the older stuff, I'm catching up. So most of the
Yeah,
stuff that I've read are from 2000 forward.
if you said that your intro to Spider-Man is the spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, then yeah, you're very new to this. So that's it's great to see you to getting into this now, and I'm
Yeah,
glad
my
that you have all of
first
these.
Marvel comic was New Avengers number 6 by Bendis, I believe. It was the first part of the
Oh,
Century arc. That was my
wow,
first ever Marvel comics, and at the time, it was one of the few things translated in Bulgarian. It was my first trip to the capital. So,
great, that's fantastic.
and I feel like really sometimes like an outsider in other groups because a lot of people don't like Bendis as a writer. But during the 2000s to 2009 until Siege, I think he's my favorite writer. I've been a huge fan of Secret Wars, his whole New Avengers run until Siege, Dark
Yep.
Avengers, which will come later as well. Mighty Avengers was a bit hit or miss, and Secret Invasion is probably one of my favorite crossovers. So yeah, I'm more of a 2000s kid in this regard.
Bendis is the type of guy who's written so much that, of course, he's going to have bad stuff. Like, it's just with the sheer amount of stuff that he's read, that he's written, it can't all be good. And so, unfortunately, people really latch onto and remember the bad stuff and write off a lot of like I love Ultimate Spider-Man. I think it is one of my favorite comic runs of the modern era, it's just so good, and he's a part of it is because Bendis was um he was he changed a lot of the way that people told stories at the time, and it was new and it was unique at the time, and it was fun to experience. Um, let's see here. I see that Will wants to get on the call, but you need to connect your mic and cam through the StreamYard options before I can add you to the stream. So if you can do that, Will, mic or cam, I'll bring you on. Okay. Um, so this volume of X-Force right here has the first 4 issues of Cable, and this is important. Oh man, there's a leaf blower happening outside my window here, so hopefully it won't disturb us too much. Um, the first 4 issues of Cable lead into X-Force issue 25, and so there's a very good reason for having it here. Now, people were wondering, is all of Cable going to be included in X-Force? Kind of like how the X-Men epics are including both titles of X-Men, because X-Force and Cable, they were very intertwined for a lot of it. The answer, I think, is no. Partly because we already have the contents to the later X-Force volumes with Zero Tolerance, and the mapping there's just not enough room to have both of those titles in their entirety. It just is not going to work. So I think at some point we'll see a Cable Epic Collection. That's probably going to come at some point. Let's move on to the next slide here. Silver Surfer Epic Collection, Volume 14, Sunrise and Shadow Fall. Dat Boy Steve says, have we talked about Menace Revealed Volume 4 yet? No, we haven't. So stay tuned. That one's coming up, I think, next. Actually, Georgie, do you have anything more you want to say, or do you want to, can I take you off the call here?
I guess maybe I can join later for the Dark Avengers again, but
Yeah.
outside of that, there's nothing.
Sure, let me plow through the next few. Actually, you can stay on the
Okay.
line first. Stay on the line.
Okay. I'll stay
Okay,
quiet.
so you can pipe up if you have some comments. I don't mind. Silver Surfer Epic Collection Volume 14, Sunrise and Shadowfall, is going to collect the rest of the DeMatteis run, and it will bring us up to the very end of Silver Surfer's 3rd volume, Volume 3, with issue number 146. It also has the half issue, the Wizard half issue, which is interesting because from what I've been told, there are some licensing agreements that have to happen with Wizard to put these half issues, to reprint the half issues. So the fact that they have this one in here is actually a good sign for other volumes. My own personal favorite, of course, is Generation X, and there was a Wizard half issue there that actually had a really good story about Skin, going back to his hometown, and it tied up some loose ends with his mom, that were being dealt with in the regular series. If they didn't include that, I think it would be a shame. So I'm happy to see that there's a half issue here, because that gives me hope that the half issue will appear in what I assume will be Generation X Epic Collection Volume 4, which will have the Larry Hama run in it. Okay, so this Silver Surfer volume also has the 6-part issue called Galactus the Devourer. That, I think, has been collected at some point in a very old trade many years ago. But the rest of this stuff, I think the Thor stuff is collected in the Jurgens trades, but the rest of this stuff is not collected at all. Axel says, is Silver Surfer Epic 14 the last one, and the next one would be Modern Epics? Maybe, maybe not. Modern era Silver Surfer is probably going to start with Annihilation, in the Annihilation era, because that's kind of what kickstarts a lot of the modern era for the Cosmic Marvel. Before that, there was a 14-issue series, and then before that, there was a 4 or 5-issue miniseries. If they collected both of those series into one volume, that could be Silver Surfer Epic Collection Volume 15. We could see that. It could happen. I don't know that they would call that Modern Era. And then after all the Annihilation stuff actually is is the Dan Slott, Mike Allred series, and then we get into like Silver Surfer Black and all of that kind of stuff. Then we get pretty modern. JV says, I actually found the Galactus trade paperback in a bargain outlet store for only $7. Very nice. It's a good deal. And here we go, the Brood Saga, X-Men Epic Collection Volume 9. Classic stuff from X-Men. Continuing on, we now have 9 volumes of X-Men Epic Collections in a row, getting us all the way to the end of 1981. No, not 1981, 1980, getting us into 1983, I think. What does it say on the back there? I can't even tell. It's too small.
I think it says 83.
83. Yeah, 1983. That's pretty good. If we have all X-Men from the 60s all the way to 1983, we're moving along at a nice quick pace. The Brood Saga is a classic storyline. If you haven't read this, this is a great volume. In fact, this whole string of volumes here, Proteus, Fate of the Phoenix, I Magneto, and then this one here, and then the next volume, these are all really good stuff.
Is
If
the
you
next
love
one gonna
X-Men,
have the Wolverine mini? The first one?
yes, it will. Yeah, exactly, because it ties into the story that was happening during there. So it will have the first miniseries by Miller. That's gonna be fantastic once they get that. Let's see here. This is a welcome change after getting volumes 20 to 22 in a row. Yeah, they really leaned into the modern X-Men epics, didn't they, for a little while there? They
I
just kind of
think the
gave us...
idea was that one year they released 7 and 8 at the same time, so then they started doing the next year they only did older ones, and then now they're back to
Yes,
the early ones.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. So in 2023, we're getting um, a modern era. We're getting Legacies, which is volume 22. And then we're going to get the classic era, which is this one here, volume 9, Brood Saga. So we'll see what happens in 2024. We'll see what happens there. Is it Sienkiewicz, or however you spell his name, on X-Men Annual 6? I don't actually know. That's a good question. Anybody know? Is Sienkiewicz, Bill Sienkiewicz? Oh, on the back cover there, that kind of does look like Bill Sienkiewicz, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that might be.
Yeah, it says it's him.
Yeah,
The cover is by him. He also does the
cool.
pencils.
Great. Okay, can't go wrong with X-Men Epics. Worth the price. Yeah,
The
this
X
I
text.
don't know. The X-Text, yeah. Not counting the modern epic collections, what is the latest epic collection year-wise? 90s, early 2000s? I'll tell you that. Let's flip over back to this
Wolverine, I think,
sheet right here.
was going in the 2003s, I think.
Yep, so Wolverine right here, Blood Debt, goes all the way into 2002 with the Origin miniseries.
I think the
That's
only
the...
one that can go further, I think there was the Star Wars, the original Marvel years. They did one more issue once they bought Disney bought Lucasfilms, and I
Yeah,
think that's in the latest volume. And that was
that
2018, 16, somewhere there.
I don't know if you count that. I would count that more like a bonus feature more than anything.
Okay,
But
then it's
but
Wolverine, I guess, if it's not that.
I think we can call it Wolverine here. Excalibur came close with coming up to 2001, May 2001. And then Spider-Man, with the revelation of the fact that they're doing the Clone Saga, could take us into the 2000s potentially if they want to fold the next chapter, the John Byrne and Howard Mackie era into it. They could go past that as well. But so far, it's Wolverine. That's the answer to your question. Let's see. Most of the stories were collected in the X-Men Starjammers book. That's correct. A lot of this story does include the Starjammers. So there is some double dipping if you got that book, but these are epics. Get rid of that one. Buy this one instead. Okay. Menace revealed. Okay, so let's see. What was the question that we had up here about Menace revealed. I'm surprised they were releasing the Dark Horse adaptation of Attack of the Clones. For whatever reason, I didn't think that they would be in the Menace revealed epics. Why is that a surprise? Why do you think? This is kind of this is the whole revealing of the Sith, the current Sith, is this era, and that kind of does end with the clones when the Emperor reveals himself, right? Or does he? I can't remember. Those movies are a fog now. Does he reveal himself in episode 2 or reveal himself in episode 3?
I
I don't
think in
remember.
episode 3 he's kind of revealed. In episode 2, I guess there's maybe hints, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Actually, yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's great because through the Clone
They
Wars
know
TV
there's a
show, he's
second
still
one. There's Dooku and there's a second one, but they don't know which one it is.
right. Yeah, I'm remembering now because all through the Clone Wars TV series, the Emperor is pretending to be a good guy still. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's it is there. It's there to mark the end of this era, and then the era after this is the Clone Wars, which doesn't start with the adaptation. Let's see here. Yeah, so regular epics go from the 60s to the early 2000s. There's room for plenty of epics. That's so true. We've got hundreds of them now. In fact, I mentioned on the other stream that these two epics that I got just recently, just yesterday actually, that Marvel sent me is this one here, Star Wars: The Old Republic Volume 5 and Aliens: The Original Years Volume 1. This is epic number 298, and this is epic 299. The next one that's coming out should be Fantastic Four: The Dream is Dead, Volume 19, and that'll be epic number 300, if you can believe it. 300 epics. Okay, let's see here. Let's keep on going. Here's what you wanted to talk about: Dark
Yeah.
Avengers.
I think that's pretty, when it comes to the Bendis' time during the Avengers, that's kind of overlooked compared to the main book, and Mighty Avengers being a little bit more disappointing. But this is probably the only time when I felt Norman Osborn being back actually was worth it for something, because I liked the idea of him being like the Iron Patriot and basically taking like the Thunderbolts idea of pretending to be heroes but actually doing it as legacy characters. It also got me introduced to Dakin, and
Yep.
I think overall people usually don't like anything from Bendis beyond street level stuff, but I think they they will enjoy this. And unfortunately, it was cut a little bit short because of the siege event. But overall, I think it was pretty interesting, especially Norman, who himself has had issues with inner demons trying to, counsel the sentry out of all people that the void isn't real. It's a little bit ironic given that Norman himself cannot control the goblin properly. So that
Yeah.
was fun idea. And it was always like, he's gonna slip eventually, but you don't know really when. And I really enjoyed the idea of Bullseye's Hawkeye. I thought it was pretty cool, and there was like the idea that he can actually be a pretty good hero, but he's just a douchebag, so he doesn't really care about that. That I thought was pretty interesting. And Marvel Boy was also here, Novar, and he was pretty like surprised out of nowhere to find out that actually all of these people he's with are villains, because he didn't know it in the beginning when he was Captain Marvel, when they made him Captain Marvel. That I thought that was pretty good.
Gabriel says the Dark Avengers epic is great because it includes the Utopia and the Dark X-Men storyline. Now, the original trade that came out, the complete collection was Dark Avengers by Bendis complete collection.
Yeah, and it's
And
missing
since
those
the it's missing yeah, it's missing the Utopia story because the Utopia story is by Jonathan Hickman when Hickman was writing X-Men. And so this trade now gives us all 16 issues of Dark Avengers plus the entire X-Men Utopia storyline. So that's really, really great. It gives us a reason to pick this up, a reason why, if especially if you didn't have if you have the original trade, is a good reason to upgrade. However, if you have the original trade and you have the X-Men by Jonathan Hickman trades, then you have everything. So you don't need you don't need this one, but it's nice to have the story all in one place. Here you go. The depiction of Venom was horrible in this. Scared of everything. What do you think about that comment?
Well, yeah, I think he was technically, but he's not Eddie Venom. He's Mark Gargan, the Scorpion. Plus, I think they were giving him some pills so he can look like Spider-Man, because at this time he looked pretty horrific as Venom. But obviously, they can't keep him like that on the book, on the team. So they had to pretend him to be like Spider-Man.
Here's a strike 6 for me, Fraction. It was X-Men was written by Fraction during this time. I knew that. You know, I always confuse Fraction and Hickman. I don't know why. They're very different writers, but for some reason, in my mind, I just can't keep them straight. Yes, Matt Fraction. You're right. It was Fraction that was writing X-Men during this time. So he is the one who was writing Utopia. Thanks for the correction. That's what I love the comment section for, because I make mistakes. I don't know everything. Okay, let's keep on going over to Deadpool Volume 3.
I think I will check out because, to be honest, forward
Okay,
my knowledge isn't that big, so I don't want to waste
perfect.
space.
Okay, well, thanks
But
for being on the call. I do appreciate it. Thanks for your
yeah,
comments.
yeah, of course. So
Awesome.
talk to you later.
Okay, see you later. Bye. Um, Deadpool Epic Collection was, we had Volume 2, and then we had Volume 4 for some reason, and now we're getting Volume 3. Just to mess with us, just because they want to do things out of order, just because it's Deadpool. I don't know, but here we go. We have Deadpool number 10 to 20. This has, I've only read one issue of this early stuff of Deadpool, and it's the issue where um, Deadpool travels back in time to the events of Amazing Spider-Man number 47, and we see him in the and he goes through that whole issue, which is why we have it reprinted in full here, Amazing Spider-Man number 47, as a bonus feature in this book, to be alongside that other issue, Deadpool. I think that's very, very cool. We also have Heroes for Hire and Baby's first Deadpool book. I think this is so the complete collections. They don't include this stuff. So I think we are now seeing that stuff being folded in here. I think they were part of Deadpool Companion, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, they're bringing it all into the Epic Collection. This is cool. Here's a series, Deadpool. Here's a series that could easily go into the 2000s. This content is, let's see, volume 4 of Deadpool goes up to 1999. So yeah, we could easily see this stuff going way further into the future, into the 2000s. Is Master of Kung Fu really canceled? No hope for volume 3? I'm sorry, Erickson, there is only hope if Marvel manages to license these characters again, which it seems like they are not going to do. Yes, Master of Kung Fu is not on the schedule anymore. I don't think it's coming out. The Heroes for Hire issues weren't in the complete collection, as I recall. Yeah, that's what I'm pretty sure about that one as well. Deadpool 11 is the one with the Amazing Spider-Man reprint. Yeah, if you haven't seen that one, you got to check it out. It's a great issue. Will be interesting to see where the cutoff between classic era and modern era is for Deadpool. Yeah, I don't know. Those classic, I can't believe there's like 20 plus volumes of Deadpool classic, because they just didn't stop. They just kept on giving more, making more of them as the new series came out. Okay, Tom Campbell says it seems pretty clear that Marvel no longer has the rights to the Sax Romer characters, so I'm guessing that that's it for Master of Kung Fu outside of modern epics. I think you're right. I don't think we're going to see him anymore. And that also means that all of these, like anytime the characters show up in other books, they're not going to be able to reprint those issues as well. Let's see here. For Master of Kung Fu, you're going to have to look for the Omnis, but yes, they will never be reprinted because they don't have a license to that anymore, so get them while you can. Phil says, I wonder if they'll leave the Deadpool logo off of all of the odd-numbered epic covers. Yeah, because Deadpool 1, that was so weird, hey? Where are my Deadpool epics? That was so strange. A, B, C, D, Deadpool. The volume 1 didn't have a title. Someone accidentally clicked off this layer when they saved the PDF and nobody noticed. Jose says this could honestly already be modern era Deadpool epic. You know what? I could see you saying that, but at the same time, even these early years, they were still very firmly grounded in the way 90s comics worked. The way like the feel of them, the look at them still felt very 90s. So if we're my thing is I think that the modern epics start when for each title it's a different period, and it's when the title gets a shift in the way that their storytelling thing is. I think modern era is determined by modern storytelling. So Deadpool still has many years to go before it turns into modern storytelling. I haven't read much Deadpool, so I can't really say where that cutoff would be, but there we go. Mm. Could we still get Deadly Hands of Kung Fu epics? Phil is right. The Sax Romer characters, Dennis Nayland and Fu Manchu, they appear in Deadly Hands of Kung Fu as well. So if you want that, you're going to have to get those Omnis as well. Cable and Deadpool. Yeah, there you go. Cable and Deadpool is a very modern feeling book. That one definitely fits the shift. I would call that a modern Deadpool book. But a I think that would get its own epic collection, kind of like we have Spider-Man, Deadpool, modern era. I think we'd get Cable and Deadpool, modern era, and it wouldn't be folded into the main Deadpool series. So Phil says they could reprint the Iron Fist and the Sons of Tigers material. They can't even reprint all of that because some of the Iron Fist stories are crossovers with Shang-Chi, and they have the Sax Romer characters in them. So there would be stories that they can't include in those reprints. Daniel Way's Deadpool is probably the modern one. Yeah, that could be absolutely. Okay, let's keep on going here. Amazing Spider-Man, Clone Saga. This is what I think people want to talk about, right? Let's talk about this. The modern, sorry, the original Clone Saga complete epic, or what is it called? The complete Clone Saga epic. That included all of these issues almost all of the issues we see here, plus the mini series called the Lost Years, Spider-Man: The Lost Years, which means that which was a mini series about the original Spider clone, what happened to that clone way back when it was dumped in the smokestack, had it been doing all of these years leading up to this point when when it shows its face again. Um, it was an out of continuity story, and it ruined a few of the surprises that come up dealing with a couple of other clone characters. And so people, when that book came out, were like, why are they putting it at this point? It shouldn't be here. It was published later. It should come later in the story. And so when Marvel published the Clone Saga Omnis, they stuck that miniseries at the end where it rightfully should go. And so it looks like now that they have a chance to remap these books, they are doing the same thing for these trades. They're going to stick that miniseries back there. So they've taken one of the stories the from volume 2 of the complete epics, and they've put it into this volume here to bring the page count back up. So Will they include both the Clone Saga and Ben Reilly complete epics? Looks like they might just do that. That'll be my question is if they do that, what'll happen with the Spectacular Spider-Man and the Web of Spider-Man epic collections if they ever come? Will they also reprint the Clone Saga in full? That's a question for another day. That's a lot of double dipping. This volume really blows open the possibilities for how long classic Amazing Spider-Man runs in epics. My personal breaking point between classic and modern would be after one more day. That is kind of a logical place to break it because that's like a, a reboot of the character. For me, speaking about, the just the thematic feel of the storytelling is when J. Michael Straczynski really changed the way Spider-Man stories were written, how they were written. So I think that feeling is where, for me, where modern Spider-Man starts. The stuff before that with Howard Mackey and John Byrne, that stuff, and Dan Jurgens, that stuff still feels quote unquote classic, even though it's early 2000s. Okay, hold on a second. Lots of comments here. Jose says, the name is a surprise. Will the next one be called Clone Saga Part 2? Great question. I think the only time... So, like, let's see here. Yeah, I don't think that we have any huge multi-part stories where they go over multiple volumes, except for Star Wars, of course. We have Star Wars Volume 1, Volume 2, that kind of stuff. I kind of doubt that they'll say the Clone Saga Part 2, but then how will people know that it's part of the Clone Saga? I don't know. Maybe they'll call it A Clone to Remember, or I don't know. I'll have to look at the other issue titles to find out what the good names will be. Oh yeah, I did that one already. I have a lot of conflict with that epic. What will I do with my complete collection book? Looks like it'll have more books than the old book. Well, it will have more issues than the old book, but only because they're pulling some from volume 2 and sticking them in here. I don't think that there'll be anything else. So you'll have to decide whether you want to hang on to that or not. Personally, I'll probably get rid of those old ones, especially because, let's see, where's my volume 1? I got to show you some of this stuff is really, really terrible. There's just some really bad reprinting in this book. See if I can find it. There's whole pages where, oh yeah, okay. So the Lost Years. See if I can find. Check out the. I'm gonna have to take the stream off here. You got to check the quality of this. If you can see, it might not show up very well on the live stream. Yeah, it doesn't at all. Okay, so the quality of the reprints is absolutely terrible. It's so bad. And it's because it's the dreaded Morway pattern where the they use a zipatone gradient that's just like little tiny dots, and when you have a bad scan and those dots are reproduced and they're not perfect circles, the reproduction starts blending them together with the dots that are beside it, and it creates these other weird patterns that look like large polka dots. A quarter of this book has that on it. And so I will gladly upgrade if they will make the artwork look a lot better. Because right now it looks terrible. The original Clone Saga is what Jerry Conroy wrote. Yeah, and it's actually coming out in 2023 as well. So 2023 is bringing us the original Clone Saga and the new Clone Saga in Epic Collection form in 1 year. That's kind of cool, hey? I love epics, I really do, but I wish Marvel would reprint the Clone Saga and Ben Reilly Omnis. They did do that, didn't they? I think they reprinted them once, but now they're giving another format a chance. I would say the endpoint for classic Spider-Man is almost 100% to be at the end of Volume 1 now. Could be. Yep, it could be. So what I'm hoping is that Marvel will now skip ahead. Now that they've done one Clone Saga, they'll just skip ahead to some of the unreleased, unreprinted stuff, I mean, from after the Clone Saga. When Tom DeFalco kind of comes back and starts writing again, and Steve Scroce is on the artwork, I believe. at that point. I think that he was on Amazing Spider-Man. The Gathering, Identity Crisis, all of that kind of stuff. Let's get those trades. I would love to see that. We don't call it double dipping, we call it cloning. Yes, I guess so. Clone boned. Yeah, the book could be called Power and Responsibility. That's one of the major story arcs here. I think that would be a great title. But is it too close to like the volume 1 and volume 2? Not that that stopped Epic Collections before. Dealt, they will multiple dip that much content. Executioner Song can work because it's just one volume. Clone Saga covers years of a story. You're right about that. They're going to have to find a good way to tell the story, though, if they're just going to print just the Spectacular Spider-Man issues in a Spectacular Spider-Man epic, because that will not be a good reading experience at all. I'm not double dipping my comic collection. I'm just cloning some issues. Volume 2 is the breaking point between Clone Saga and the Back to Basics Spidey. Yeah. So I could see. You might be right about that. My guess for Spectacular and Web Epics is that they'd only reprint the clone issues for the respective series and use summary pages for any relevant story bits from the other titles. So the reason he mentions that is because the way that these early volumes worked is that Amazing and Adjectiveless Spider-Man, they featured Peter Parker, and then Spectacular and Web of Spider-Man, those featured Ben Reilly. So they kind of went in two different paths. I believe that's how the division was at the time. And so you could theoretically have a Spider-Man epic collection that just focused on those Ben Reilly issues and forgot about the Peter stuff. But that only lasts for a certain period, and then you get into the period where it's like part 1 is in Amazing, part 2 is in Spectacular, part 3 is in Web, part 4 is in Adjectiveless, and then they just kind of rotate through there, and it becomes literally a weekly series. And that's going to be way harder to collect, or way harder to reprint with captions and stuff. Printing both Clone Sagas in 1 year is probably intentional. You might be right about that. In fact, maybe because of the Into the Spider-Verse stuff, maybe clones will come into that new movie that's coming out. I don't know. Anyone know if the Omniboo of the Clone Saga have that weird printing like the complete collection, what I just showed you? Yeah, that's a great question. Anybody, can you check the Lost Years miniseries? Because that's the Lost Years issues just look absolutely terrible in these complete epics. So if you can find out if someone has the Omni, let me know. That would be great to know. Is this an anniversary year for the Clone Saga? For the original Clone Saga, let me see. The original Clone Saga was in 76. So that's not really an anniversary, no. There are some small crossovers after the Clone Saga. Spider Hunt, Identity Crisis, Gathering of the Five, final chapter. After that, you have Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2. You know what I would really like to see included in the Epic Collections is the Slingers series. Do you remember that? After the Identity Crisis, when Spider-Man tried to have 4 different Spider personas, or 4 different personas that were not Spider-Man, and then eventually 4 other people find those costumes and they become those characters, and they called that book Slingers. And it lasted only for like 9 or 10 issues or something like that. How great would it be to see that included in a Spider-Man epic collection? Because like, who's gonna buy a Slingers collection just on its own? I don't think. I mean, I probably would if it's not going to be anywhere else, but it's not going to be a big seller. Might as well stick it in here with Spider-Man on the front cover. That would be great. I missed that. What's wrong with the original Clone Saga collections? I just mentioned that the Lost Years miniseries, the 4-issue miniseries, the scans are absolutely terrible in this. They suffer from the moire pattern, and I think that if they are going to put this into the Epic collections, they definitely need to come up with some better scans because it's completely dreadful. Oh, here we go. 2024 is the 30th anniversary of the 90s Clone Saga. That's it. There you go. I wonder if Marvel considers Chapter 1 canon. Even if they don't consider it canon, the Epic Collections do collect the miniseries by, based on publication, and they could easily put that into one of these collections, although that was a pretty long series. It would be like over half of an Epic Collection, I think. Might be good to pad out something like Web of Spider-Man with a series like that. Going to be difficult to check. Epic collectors read their books. Omni collectors just stare at them sealed on their shelves. Whoa, shots fired. Who's triggered by that? Slingers was 12 issues, yeah. So that would be a really large chunk of one Epic collection, but I want it to happen. Okay, we have Juso looking at his Omnis, so let's wait for that comment there. Do you have a list of all the epics that are supposed to be published in 2023? I don't have it written out, except I do have it on this spreadsheet because I have a tab here that says release schedule, and all of these, it's not like a text thing. I just have the boxes that are kind of color coded, but they give the dates of releases and kind of what order they're coming in. So you can take a look at that. If you want to find that, you can go to epicmarvelpodcast.com. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Epic. Let's see, did I do that right here? Let's check. epicmarvelpodcast.com/epic guide. That takes you to a list that of all of the Epic collections that I keep up to date, which I'm going to put these announcements and the ones we did a couple weeks ago. I'll update that this afternoon. But there's a link at the top that says view this in spreadsheet form or something like that. So that'll take you to this spreadsheet here. Here's a good comment. I recently got Disney Plus. Which Spider-Man animated series is the best to start with? I gotta say that I'm gonna have to say the '90s Spider-Man series is the place to start. It's a great series. It tries to, while some of it is wildly not the same as the comics, it for the most part tries to stay very faithful to the comics. It's not as campy and hokey as the original '60s series, which by the way I love that series too. But the best Spider-Man series, in my opinion, is Spectacular Spider-Man. I think just that story is just a really well-told story, and unfortunately, it only lasted 2 seasons. That one's really good, though. Okay, a couple more books to talk about here. Then I'm getting hungry because I haven't had lunch yet. And what time is it? Holy cow! Yeah, 1:13. Marvel 2-in-1 Epic Collection Volume 2. Now we got this here. We got the cover art to this like over a year ago. Phil found it online. He was snooping around the Penguin Random House website and managed to track it down. And at that time, Marvel 2-in-1, it said that it was going to include Marvel 2-in-1 issues 20 to 36. And it had Doc Savage mentioned in the back cover description. But this one now, then there was a delay. Marvel took it off the schedule. And I remember when Omar, we were going to do an announcement and he was like, oh, Kurtis, we got to take that. We can't mention Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 2 because Marvel's removed it from the schedule. And I'm like, well, why did they do that? And he's like, I don't know. And we just never heard from it for like almost 2 years. We never heard from it. And now we're finally getting it back. But it looks like the reason of the holdup was because of that Doc Savage issue. It now says that the contents are issues number 20 and then 20 to issue 20 and then 22 to 36. We're missing issue 21. So we are not going to have the Doc Savage issue there. And they've rewritten the back cover blurb so that he's not mentioned at all. So I appreciate that Marvel spent nearly 2 years trying to make this happen, but they eventually said we just have to go ahead and do it without that issue. So thanks, Marvel, for trying. We do appreciate that. If you want that Doc Savage issue, you can buy the Marvel Masterworks because they did that the license. They did get the license for that one that came out a few years back. I believe it's still on Marvel Unlimited. It was for a time on Marvel Unlimited. I don't know who. I don't know if they have it now. A lot of people are happy about this. Marvel 2-in-1 is a fun series, and this series, I don't think this is the Project Pegasus stuff. That's going to come a little bit later, but this is still fun. Uncle Benji. Benji Grimm is my favorite character. Series was so much fun. Gabriel says something funny from this because Panini Spain has just recently published the Marvel team-up of Spider-Man and Doc Savage, and I guess that in the future they will include the Red Sonja and the Spider-Man in Spider-Man team-up. Okay, that would be kind of cool. I don't think Marvel can do that. Marvel had a special arrangement with Dynamite to reprint that in a trade, but who knows if that'll show up in a Marvel team. There's so many Marvel team-up issues that are going to be missing from Marvel team-up. There's that Red Sonja one. There's the Saturday Night Live one. There's a ROM issue in Marvel 2-in-1 that won't be in here. There's a King Kull issue now that they no longer have the Conan license that won't be in Marvel Team Up. Who has the Doc Savage rights? That's a good question. I don't know. Does anybody know? Okay, just went through the Omni, the Clone Wars Omni. The scans for the Lost Years seem good to me. That's good to know. Glad to hear it. One of these years we will get Marvel Team Up. I agree with this. And you know what? Honestly, there are series like Alpha Flight and Spectacular Spider-Man, Marvel Team Up, these long-running series. I think that they're waiting for some of these other series to finish. Like we said, we're only 4 volumes away from the end of Daredevil and the end of Thor and the end of Captain America. So once those are done, Marvel's going to want to replace it with something. So I think they are saving some of these long series for when they no longer have long series in Marvel in the Epic collections. So it might still be a few years before we see those turn up. What's will that Marvel 2-in-1 Epic still have the speech bubbles on the cover when it comes out? Great question. I kind of think it will, but I don't really know. The original Clone Saga Epic collection also has words on the cover, and we haven't. That's in the actual finished, like solicited cover. Actually has the word balloons in there, so I don't know. It would be. It's definitely different. That's for sure. I would buy the Marvel team up even without some of the other license issues if it had the SNL issue. It's not going to. There are so that one was very, very specific to all of the people involved in that. They all had to sign off on having their likenesses in that one, and I believe the agreement for that said, specifically stated in their contracts, it's a one and done thing. Back then they weren't thinking about reprints. Nobody was, so it wasn't written into the contract. How many Marvel epics are published? Mostly, not counting the reprints. Oh, monthly, you mean? How many are published monthly? We get about 4 or 5 a month. It's weekly. It really is. It's weekly. There's at least one a month. Sometimes one a week. Sometimes there are 2. But in 2023, looks like the average is 4 a month. Okay, last one here on the list, Doctor Strange Volume 2, I Dormammu. And after this, I'm going to go get something to eat because I'm getting really hungry. This is a big one. There are not many 60s volumes of Marvel 1960s work left to reprint in the Epic collections, and this is one that has been missing for a long time. This is the post-Steve Ditko era of Doctor Strange before his title gets canceled. So this is very, very exciting to see that we are going to get this book finally. So all of you, all of you who have been reading the Epic collections from the very start chronologically and have had to stop because of this, your time is coming up. Unfortunately, it's January of next year. We have to wait a full year before this is coming out. Yeah, there's Silver Surfer Volume 2, and now that we have a Sergeant Fury Volume 2 coming out in the summertime, I think that this is good news. I want to see this title here, Human Torch and the Thing Strange Tales Complete Collection. I want to see this rebranded as an Epic Collection so it'll look good on my shelf. But other than that, this is good. Yes, this is a gap filler. We have Volume 1, we have Volume 3. Now this is going to fill in that gap. Definitely. Jens says, totally unrelated, but I picked up a couple of Corto Maltese books by IDW Eurocomics after listening to your podcast interview with Dean Mullaney back in 2021 for LOAC TV. Great stuff. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I work for a couple different publishers. One is the Library of American Comics, and they do comic strip reprint books like Flash Gordon and Dick Tracy, Steve Canyon. The one I'm working on, I'm the editor for Better or for Worse, which is a classic family comic strip, really, really great. It was published through the 80s and 90s, and that one's really great. But yes, Corto Maltese by Hugo Pratt. If you haven't read that, it is a really great adventure series. Not adventure like superhero adventure. It's about a laid back, low key sailor type who goes looking, just gets, doesn't even go looking for it. He just kind of ends up in situations. So there you go. Okay, let's talk about, let's see here. We get 48 Epic Collections a year. Actually, in 2023, our number is like 56. I think we're getting 56 Epic Collections in 2023. Pretty good. The line, they keep adding more. Each year, there are more and more Epic Collections. And 2023 is the most Epic Collections we've ever had. It's really, really great. And by the way, people were wondering if the inclusion of modern era Epic Collections is going to impact the classic era Epic Collections. But you can see here that even though we have all of these modern era Epic Collections right here, this is not including December, but we have sorry, here, hold on a second, let me get my window. We have 39 classic era Epic Collections plus the 3 more that we added here, so 42. That's even more than we got last year, because last year we had only 36 classic era Epic Collections. So even though we've added the modern era, it's still they still increased the number of classic era. So Marvel's doing a good thing here. They are not slowing down. They're ramping up. Really, really great. Let's see. I think I need to wrap this up. We've been going on for 2 hours now. This has been a fantastic morning, both on the first stream and for this stream. I thank everybody for joining me on this. It's been really great to be able to chat with some of you. Thanks for those who left comments. I would love it if you like and subscribe. Of course, that would be fantastic. I'm on social media all over the place. We have a Facebook group. This is important information. We have a Facebook group. So if you are not part of that and you want to talk about Epic Collections all day, every day, search for Epic Collections on Facebook and join our Facebook group because we are always talking about them. I have a Substack newsletter, and it's at, I'm going to write it here, Kurtis, how do I spell my name? F-I-N-D, at substack.com. Is that right there? Nope. Whoops. No, this should have been dot. Let me try that again. .sub. Go to kurtisfinley.substack.com. I do a weekly newsletter where I talk about comics, a little bit about music, but about comics. And I'm all of you who are subscribed to the newsletter. I'm going to do monthly Epic Collection giveaways. I've got a stack of Epic Collections that I'm giving away. And so I'm going to do one later this afternoon. And if you want to be part of that, then sign up. It doesn't cost you anything. But if you do want to be, this is kind of like a Patreon thing, right? and it's how I am trying to offset some of the costs of my podcast and stuff. So if you want to become a subscriber, I think for Americans it's like $4 a month or something like that. You can subscribe for just 1 month, or you can subscribe for a few months. You come and go as you please. But if you are subscribed to my Substack, I will include you in my monthly draw for Epic Collection giveaway. I'll ship all over the world. Doesn't matter where you are. I will send you an Epic Collection. So, yeah, thanks everybody for being part of it. I hope that you all have a great day and that you are going to eat a good lunch. I'm going to eat a good lunch too. Thanks everybody for watching. We're going to sign off, and I'll sign off with my theme music. See you later.